W5FC. Chairman, I need to make myself very clear. If we uplink now, Skynet will be in control of your military.
But you'll be in control of Skynet, right?
That is correct, sir.
Skynet.
Does anyone need to use the repeater before we begin the 9 p.m. Skynet? This is Whiskey Bravo 5, Oscar Zulu Lima. My name is Brenda, and I'll be your net control for this session of DARC Skynet. First, we have a special announcement. There's an Iss Pass at 9:10 p.m. here in Dallas. The space station will appear out of the southwest, and it reaches its highest point at 74 degrees. It will fall to the southeast. The pass should last about 10 minutes. Of course, it might be overcast, so I don't know. I haven't been outside for a while, so you can go see for yourself what it's like wherever you are. Skynet is a weekly net called every Saturday night at 9 p.m. concerning the subject of astronomy. Our purpose is to help amateurs become more familiar with the nighttime and daytime sky, astronomy, and space in general. This net is open to all amateurs interested in this topic, and we encourage your participation, comments, and suggestions for this net. Stations with priority or emergency traffic may enter the net at any time by using the pro sign break break and your call sign. Is there any emergency or priority traffic? This is a directed net. Please do not transmit without direction from net control. That would be me, and stations are to tell others about this popular net. All amateur operators are welcome. You need not be a member of any amateur radio club to participate. This net is 90 minutes long and is structured in several parts. 1. General announcements. 2. Texas Astronomical Society of Dallas events, where and when you can look through a telescope. 3. National Space Society events. 4. Discussion topic of the evening. 5. What's up? 6. Space exploration and space history. 7. Constellation of the week. 8. Space launches of the week. 9. Recent astronomical discoveries. 10. Visible satellite passages over the next couple of days. 11. Astronomical Q&A, and 12. 73 rounds. All amateurs licensed to transmit on this frequency are invited to check in. So we're going to start with low power and short time check-ins. We want your call sign phonetically, your name, and where you are transmitting from. So please come now.
November 5, Whiskey Oscar India, William and Allen, short time.
November 9, Quebec Oscar X-ray, Demond, Little Elm, short time.
This is Whiskey 5, Golf, Uniform Sierra, Gus, far northeast Dallas, low power.
Okay, I have N5 WOI, William, and N9 QOE. I missed your name. Could you fill that in?
This is November 9, Quebec Oscar X-ray, Demond, in Little Elm, Texas, short time.
I caught that as Lamont, is that right? Okay, then W5 GUS Gus. All right, we'll go for general check-ins now.
November 5, Bravo, Bravo, Bill and Irving.
Kilo Echo 5, India Charlie X-Ray, Tom, Louisville.
Kilo Golf Lima Delta, Randy Rowlett.
November 5, Oscar Foxtrot, Clay of Mesquite.
This is Alpha Alpha 5, Alpha Hotel, Robert and Richards.
Kilo Foxtrot 5, Zulu Bravo Lima, Bill, Farmers Branch.
Okay, we'll pick those up and then go for more. N5BB, Bill. KE5ICX, Tom. Then the next one I wasn't sure. Randy, I have you as KGLD. Was that right?
Kilo 5, Golf Lima Delta, K5GLD.
Sorry about that. You had blipped out earlier, so I was concerned it wasn't right. So K5 Golf Lima Delta. Then November 5, Oscar Foxtrot Clay. AA5AH Robert. KF5ZBL Bill. All right, we have any echo links?
Kilo Golf 5, Bravo Zulu Whiskey, J, New Weather.
Golf 5, Zulu Mike Golf, Joe in Arlington.
Okay, we got KG5BZWJ. And then, Joe, I missed your prefix. Would you please fill that in?
So Golf 5, Zulu Mike Golf, Joe in Arlington.
You got Kilo Golf 5, Zulu Mike Golf. Okay, anybody else checking in? Any mode?
This is Kilo Foxtrot 5, Juliet Hotel Alpha, Chaz, Mesquite.
Kilo Golf 5, Whiskey Sierra, Juliet, David, in East Dallas.
Kilo Golf 5, Whiskey Victor Lima, James in Carrollton.
This is Kilo 5, Kilo Tango X-Ray Kelly, back in Quinlan.
This is Kilo Golf 5, Alpha Papa Lima, Patrick in Dallas.
Okay, we have KF5JHA Chaz, KG5WSJ David, KG5WVL James, K5KTX Kelly, and KG5APL Patrick. Thanks to everybody for checking in. We'll get more check-ins later. All right. Do we have any general announcements for this evening's net? These can be ham, astronomical space, or of general interest to licensed hams. Okay, we have some nets throughout the week. The AMSAT, Amateur Radio Satellite Group, has 2 nets available to Dallas residents. On Tuesday evenings at 8 p.m. Central, you will need Echolink installed and be registered. You can find the net under Groups and AMSAT. Also, a live audio link is available on their website. It's amsatnet.com. This net originates in Houston, Texas. Dallas AMSAT Net East, Dallas-Fort Worth, Texas, is every Tuesday at 8 on this repeater, 146.88 megahertz, PL 110.9, Tuesdays. Tom, N5HYP, is net control. All are welcome to check in. First Tuesday of the month, though, is the DARC Club Net, so there's no AMSAT East that night. Dallas AMSAT Net West is every Wednesday at 9 p.m. on the Arlington repeater, 147.14 megahertz, PL 110.9, positive offset. We're going to skip all those other nets. You all know about them anyway. And we got a full plate tonight. So here is information on tonight's Afterglow movie. The name of Tom, could you read that, please? I've got a cough.
Sure, I'll do that, Miss Brenda. This is KE5 ICX. Tonight's Afterglow info is as follows. Dylan Branson, air traffic controller at JFK, realized he picked the wrong day to quit methamphetamines, but it wasn't important right now. What bothered him was he was seeing patterns in everything going on around him. He realized a stop clock in the ATC lounge was correct twice a day at precisely 2:22. He gazed in amazement. It may have explained why 2 planes almost collided while Branson attempted the dubious Picard maneuver, a flight maneuver he'd seen on some popular TV show. Later, Branson discovered many things. All happened at exactly the same time each day. There are patterns, he thought. At 12 noon, people would go to lunch. The flight from Berlin arrived at 3:30 in the afternoon every day, except, of course, on Mondays. Branson wasn't exactly the most intelligent guy at the ATC, but unfortunately, he wasn't the dumbest either. Join us for the SF thriller 222, not room 222, that was a whole different thing. 222, like 2 o'clock and 22 minutes in the afternoon, from 2017 tonight at 10:30 p.m. Back to net control. This is KE5 ICX.
Well, thank you for that. Starts at about 10:30, like 5 or 10 minutes after ends. And of course, this is a highly fictionalized synopsis. It's sort of a satire. It's not real. But you can go to Wikipedia to find the real synopsis if you want, or you can just watch the movie really fast. If you want to join us for Afterglow, Tom puts it on the Afterglow website, or he will email you. So just get in touch with him if you want to see what next week's movie is going to be. Okay, Texas Astronomical Society of Dallas events, where and when you can look through a telescope. KF5JHA. Chaz, do you have something for us?
Sure, thank you, Brenda. This is KF5JHA. The next Texas Astronomical Society Club meeting will be on Friday, May the 28th at 7:30 p.m. The featured speaker will be actually the Dark Side Committee, so several people. And the topic will be about the dark side. We have a dark side where we can do observing much more easily than in the Metroplex, and that's what this meeting's going to be about. Task Club members will receive an email link to the Zoom meeting. Yes, it's still a virtual meeting, in advance of the meeting, probably about a week or so in advance. Hopefully later this year, Task will resume having face-to-face meetings, and will resume, I hope soon, having public observing sessions. To get more detail about all this information, go to texasastro.org for updated information and details. This is KF5JHA, back to our net control. Thank you, Brenda.
Thank you, Chaz. Next, National Space Society and 5BB. What do you have?
Hi, Brenda. This is N5BB. I am the Membership Director of the National Space Society North Texas Chapter. We just had our meeting this last Sunday. The meeting topic was the future of NASA spaceflight, essentially. It was an overview by our chapter president, Ken Ruffin, of future space programs that are coming up next few years. The next meeting is going to be on, it's always the second Sunday of the month, so it'll be on Sunday afternoon, June the 13th at 4 p.m. We've been doing virtual meetings for the last year, and I do not know for sure, but I'm assuming that the June 13th meeting will also be virtual. Our normal fixed meeting location, physical one, is in Spring Creek Barbecue in Irving at Beltline and 183, but we have to wait until the National Space Society decides to go back to in-person meetings. I think that's it. There's a lot of other activities that go on with National Space Society, but a lot of those are for members only, or they're, we don't know about them yet for this next week. There's normally a National Space Society forum every week or two. It's usually every couple of weeks on Thursday evenings. But they don't announce that real far in advance, so I can't tell you what's coming up next week. If you have any interest in National Space Society, either the national group or a local chapter, you can reach me at space@byram.net. That's SPACE at BYROM.net, or N5BB, that's November 5 Bravo Bravo, at ARRL.net. That's all I got, Brenda, N5BB.
Thank you, Bill. Okay, now on to our discussion topic of the evening. We're going to talk about the James Webb Space Telescope. This is very very current. Its golden mirror wings opened one last time on Earth. It's the largest and most powerful space science telescope, and it opened its iconic primary mirror. This event marked a key milestone in preparing for the observatory for launch later this year. As part of the NASA's James Webb Space Telescope's final tests, the 6.5-meter mirror was commanded to fully expand and lock itself into place just like it would in space. The conclusion of this test represents the team's final checkpoint in a long series of tests designed to ensure Webb's 18 hexagonal mirrors are prepared for a long journey in space and a life of profound discovery. After this, all of Webb's many movable parts will have confirmed in testing that they can perform their intended operations after being exposed to the expected launch environment. The primary mirror is a technological marvel. The lightweight mirrors, coatings, actuators, and mechanisms, electronics, and thermal blankets, when fully deployed, form a single, precise mirror that is truly remarkable, said Lee Feinberg, Optical Telescope Element Manager for Webb at NASA's Goddard Space Flight Center in Greenbelt, Maryland. This is not just the final deployment test sequence that the team has pulled off to prepare Webb for a life in space, but it means when we finish that the primary mirror will be locked in place for launch. It's humbling to think about the hundreds of dedicated people across the entire country who work so hard to design and build a primary mirror. And now to know launch is so close. Commands to unlatch and deploy the side panels of the mirror were relayed from Webb's testing control room at Northrop Grumman in Redondo Beach, California. The software instructions sent and the mechanism are the same as those used in space. Special gravity offsetting equipment was attached to Webb to simulate the zero-gravity environment in which its complex mechanisms will operate. All of the final thermal blanketing and innovative shielding designed to protect its mirrors and instruments from interference were in place during testing. To observe objects in the distant cosmos, to do science has never been done before, Webb's mirror needs to be so large that it cannot fit inside any rocket available in its fully extended form. Like a piece of origami artwork, Webb contains many movable parts that have been specifically designed to fold themselves into a compact formation that is considerably smaller than when the observatory is fully deployed. This allows it to just barely fit inside a 5-meter rocket fairing with little room to spare. To deploy, operate, and bring its golden mirrors into focus requires 132 individual actuators and motors in addition to complex back-end software to support it. A proper deployment in space is critically important to the process of fine-tuning Webb's individual mirrors into one functional and massive reflector. Once the wings are fully extended and in place, extremely precise actuators on the backside of the mirrors position and bend or flex each mirror into a specific prescription. Testing of each actuator and their expected movements was completed in a final functional test earlier this year. So why do we need a new telescope? The JWST will provide improved resolution and sensitivity over Hubble and will enable a broad range of investigation across the fields of astronomy and cosmology, including observing some of the most distant events and objects in the universe, such as the formation of the first galaxies. The primary mirror of the JWST, the optical telescope element, is composed of 18 hexagonal mirror segments made of gold-plated beryllium, which combine to create a 6.5-meter or 21-foot diameter mirror, considerably larger than Hubble's 2.4 meter or 7 foot 10-inch mirror. Unlike the Hubble, which operates in near ultraviolet, visible and near infrared spectra, the JWST will observe in a lower frequency range from long wavelength visible light through mid-infrared, which will allow it to observe high redshift objects that are too old and too distant for Hubble to observe. The telescope must be kept very cold in order to observe the infrared without interference, so it will be deployed in space near the Earth-Sun L2 Lagrange point, and a large sun shield made of silicon-based and aluminum-coated kapton will keep its mirror and instruments below 50 degrees Kelvin. That's minus 369 degrees Fahrenheit. The Webb is millions over budget and years past its deadlines, but is finally nearing a launch date. Nearly a month after launch, the trajectory correction will be initiated to place the JWST into a halo orbit around the L2 Lagrange point. Once in position, JWST will go through the process of deploying its sunshade, mirror, and arm, which will take about 3 weeks. The mirror is in 3 pieces that will swing into place with motors. And who will get to use it? The General Observer's GEO program provides all astronomers the opportunity to apply for observing time and will represent the bulk of this observing time. GEO programs will be selected through peer review by a time allocation committee. It's a TAC, similar to the proposal review process used for the Hubble Space Telescope. JWST observing time is expected to be highly oversubscribed. Yeah, no kidding. All right. Do we have any more check-ins? Okay, this is WB5OZO. Next up, Chaz, KF5JHA, with his What's Up segment. Please go ahead, Chaz.
Well, thank you so much, Brenda. This is Chaz, KF5JHA. My degree is in astrophysics, and I'm the astrophysics lab manager at Dallas College on the Brookhaven campus. We call this segment of Skynet What's Up. I hope you guys missed me. I've been gone the last 2 weeks. Well, I was in West Texas doing some observing. Slide number 2, please, Slide Master. On May the 11th, the moon was at its new phase. So the current phase of the moon is a waxing crescent. I got to see it the night before last, low in the west, through some clouds. I don't know if we're going to see it right now or not. May the 19th, the moon will be at its first quarter phase. On May the 25th, the moon will be at perigee, which is the point of the moon's orbit that's closest to the Earth. On May 26th, the moon will be full, and there will be a lunar eclipse. We're on the lunar eclipse in a minute. On June the 2nd, the moon will be at its third quarter, and on June the 10th, the moon will be new. Slide Master, that would be Tom. Slide number 3, please. Early in the morning on May 26th, there will be a total lunar eclipse, which is the first part will only be visible to us here in North Texas. A lunar eclipse occurs when the moon moves into the shadow of the Earth. Most of the time, the moon moves just a little bit above or below the Earth's shadow as it orbits. But a couple times of the year, the moon travels into the Earth's shadow. There's a lighter part of the Earth's shadow called the penumbra and a darker part of the shadow called the umbra. When the moon moves completely into the umbra shadow of the Earth, we have what is called a total lunar eclipse. The eclipse on May the 26th, 2021, is a total lunar eclipse. The last total lunar eclipse visible in Dallas was on January 21st, 2019. We got to see it. It was a bit cold that night. Or I should say morning. Yeah, it was morning. The next total lunar eclipse visible from Dallas will be on May the 15th, 16th, 2022. Although there is a partial lunar eclipse later this year on November the 19th, 2021, and that's very nearly a total lunar eclipse. 93% of the moon will go into the umbra shadow of the Earth on that day. Slide number 4, please. At 3:48 a.m. Central Daylight Time, the moon will begin to enter into the penumbral shadow of the Earth. This is difficult to notice. At 4:45 a.m. Central Daylight Time, the moon will enter the umbra, and you should be able to notice the eclipse at that point. At 6:11 a.m., the moon is completely inside the umbral shadow, and totality begins. The middle of the eclipse is at 6:19 a.m. Central Daylight Time, but wait, at 6:22, the moon sets and the sun rises. We will not be able to see the remainder of the eclipse. The beginning of astronomical twilight is at 4:43 a.m. Central Time. So after 4:43 a.m., the sky will become brighter and brighter. That means totality at 6:11 a.m. may be very difficult to see in the very bright morning twilight. The moon may just disappear as it gets close to totality. It'll be interesting to observe. I hope it's clear. Slide number 5, please, Slide Master. On May the 15th, in the evening sky, you can see the conjunction of the moon and the planet Mars in the western sky. Mars is not so obvious because it's almost on the other side of the solar system right now, so it's kind of pale, orangish color and isn't that bright in the sky, but you can still see it easily. Slide number 6, please. On May the 28th, the planets Mercury and Venus will be in conjunction in the western evening sky. Venus will be the brighter of the pair, and Mercury will be dimmer. Slide number 7, please. On May the 31st, in the early morning sky, the moon will be in conjunction with the planets Jupiter and Saturn. Jupiter will be on one side, Saturn will be on the other side, and the moon will be a bit below them and in between them at that point. Slide number 8, please. During the daytime of June the 7th and the 8th, there will be a daytime meteor shower called the Arenids. Now, how can you observe a daytime meteor shower? Well, you do it by using radio. By listening at a particular frequencies and listening for the reflected radio signal of a distant station, this could indicate an ion trail that is produced by a meteor. Details on how to observe meteors using radio can be found at the American Meteor Society at amsmeteors.org or the International Meteor Organization at imo.net. You may be able to observe up to 30 meteors per hour. Wow, using radio? Wouldn't that be cool? And this is KF5JJ, and this is Skynet. Slide number 9, please. Once again, the next Texas Astronomical Society of Dallas Club meeting will be held on Friday, May the 28th at 7:30 p.m. And the Dark Site Committee will be the featured speaker. And they're going to talk about the dark side. Again, detailed about that is at texasastro.org for updated information. Slide number 10, please. The end of the semester has come for the students at Dallas College on the Brookhaven campus. So no more credit for listening or watching Skynet because actually the semester ended on Thursday. We hope that you've enjoyed participating in Skynet this semester, and you are welcome to continue to participate and listen in. Now, do any of you out there in Radioland have any questions or need a fill on any of the information I've given? Or do you just have a general astronomy question? I don't know everything by any means, but I may know the answer to your question, or maybe somebody else here on the net might know the answer to your question. If you have a question, come now with your call sign. I heard someone respond, but you were like 95% noise. I could not hear you or understand. Would you like to try that one more time?
KI5,
Well, I got KI5, and I didn't hear your suffix. But go ahead and try your question. Go ahead and ask it twice, and maybe I can capture that. Go ahead.
Golf, Bravo, Tango. And my question was if you could repeat the website again for the meteor detection in the daytime. My question is, what was the URL for the information for detecting meteor showers during the daytime?
Thank you so much. I did hear your question, and thank you. It was GBT, I understand that's your suffix. Okay, great. What are the different websites you can go to for the meteor shower? Well, that's pretty easy. AMSmeteors.org. That's for the American Meteor Society. And the other one is IMO.net. That's for the International Meteor Organization. Did that help you out?
Very much. KI5.
Okay, I believe that was KI5GBT. Okay. So, as the moon wanes at the end of May, so do these words for this segment of Skynet. Stay safe, keep well, pray for our world. It's the only one where humans live. And until next week, well, actually, I'm going to do another segment in a few moments. Keep looking up so you know what's up. And this is KF5JHA. Back to our net control, Brenda. It's all yours. Thank you.
Thank you. Tonight's segment on space exploration history and birthdays will be read by Tom General, KE5ICX. He prepared part of it as well, but he's going to give me a break so I don't have to talk all night long. KE5ICX, go ahead.
All right, thank you, Miss Brenda. This is KE5ICX, and we got tons of stuff going on, space exploration news. Yes, Brenda was doing it, I was doing it at the same time, and we had a confluence, but we took the best of both. So here we go. The death of Graham Ferguson, a Canadian filmmaker who co-founded IMAX, died on Saturday at the age of 91. Ferguson had reportedly been battling cancer, passing away at his home in Norway Point, Ontario. Ferguson founded the IMAX Corporation in 1967 with filmmaker Roman Craterus, businessman Robert Kerr, and engineer William Shaw. His latter two collaborators have been friends of his since high school. The initial impetus for IMAX was Polar Life, an experimental film that Ferguson directed at Expo 67 in Montreal. In collaboration with Kerr and Shaw, he would develop a proprietary system of high-resolution cameras, film formats, and projectors in theaters which could bring a new sense of immersion and scope to the cinematic experience. A writer, director, producer, and cinematographer, here it comes, the painter. Ferguson's IMAX films include Hail Columbia, The Dream is Alive, Blue Planet, Journey to the Planets, Destiny in Space, L5, The First City in Space, Mission to Mir, and Hubble 3D. His most recent project as an executive producer was the 2016's A Beautiful Planet, an exploration of Earth and beyond as seen from the International Space Station, which was directed by Tony Myers and narrated by Jennifer Lawrence. And I'm going to tell you something. I'm going to diverge here and say that I've seen most of those films, and they are spectacular. The L5 versus the City in Space, I loved. Journey to the El Columbia was the first film I saw, which I thought was fantastic. Hubble 3D was uber cool, as I've seen all these. They're great. If you get a chance, sometimes they rerun them. Okay, I'll shut up. Next up, Bennu's samples are coming home. NASA's first asteroid sampling mission is hauling its space rock bounty home. The OSIRIS-REx probe began heading for Earth today. That would be May 10th, kicking off the 1.4 billion-mile journey that will culminate with the touchdown of its sample capsule in the Utah desert in September of 2023. That capsule is full of pristine material collected from the near-Earth asteroid Bennu in October of 2020. The spacecraft's been lingering near Bennu's patch of space until around 4 p.m. Eastern Daylight Time today, and it fired its main thrusters for 7 minutes. The maneuver changed the velocity by 595 miles per hour, enough to set it on a circuitous new Earth intersecting course that includes 2 more laps around the Sun. That $800 million mission launched in September of 2016 and arrived in around Bennu in December of 2018. The probe studied the carbon-rich space rock up close for a while, sizing it up and searching for the best place to spiral down and snag samples. The mission team members had planned to estimate the mass of the material by performing a spinning maneuver with the spacecraft shortly after sample collection. But the maneuver would likely have caused more Bennu bits to escape. So it was they stowed the stuff in the return capsule without doing much the spin move. As a result, we don't know exactly how much asteroid rubble is out there, but it's safe to say it comfortably exceeds about 60 grams or 2.1 ounces minimum targeted for the mission. Team members, it will therefore be the largest cosmic sample hauled to Earth by NASA since the Apollo astronauts brought home 842 pounds of moon rocks from 1969 to 72. And it was a primitive, carbon-rich asteroid, the type that many scientists think helped deliver via countless impacts lots of water and organic material to the early Earth. After OSIRIS-REx samples come home, researchers around the world will study them in depth, seeking clues to help answer some of the very big questions. Now and this is KE5ICX. Now we'll talk about astronaut birthdays, and boy do we have them. Dan Sprand, American former naval officer and aviator, was born on May 9th, 1931. He's a test pilot and a NASA astronaut. He served as command module pilot during the first U.S.-Soviet joint space flight in 1975 and as commander of 3 space shuttle missions. His flight experience include almost 10,000 flying hours, which included 8,000 hours in jets, 400 hours in helicopters, 750 hours in spacecraft, and checkout in more than 30 types of military aircraft. Next we have Cecilia Payne from 1900. She was a British-born American astronomer and astrophysicist who proposed in her 1925 doctoral thesis that stars were composed primarily of hydrogen and helium. Her groundbreaking conclusion was initially rejected because it contradicted the scientific wisdom of the time, which held that there are no significant elemental differences between the Sun and Earth. Independent observations eventually proved she was incorrect. Lisa Novak was born in 1963, an American aeronautical engineer and former NASA astronaut. Goblet served as a naval officer and test pilot. Let's see here. She was a part of Shuttle Discovery during the STS-121 mission in July of 2006. She was responsible for operating the robotic arms of the shuttle and the International Space Station. Next we have Gregory Johnson, NASA astronaut, retired colonel in the United States Air Force. He's a veteran of 2 space flights, STS-123 and 134, served as pilot of his first mission, which delivered the Kybo Logistics Module and the Dextry robot arm to the International Space Station. May 14th, 1988, Jessica Watkins was born, NASA astronaut, geologist, aquanaut, and former international rugby player. Boy, it'd be interesting to hear about that one. William Gregory, 1957, Albanian-American, retired NASA astronaut, United States Air Force Lieutenant Colonel. James Kelly, in 1964, NASA astronaut, retired colonel in the United States Air Force. He served space shuttle missions. Kelly is not related, sorry, to Scott or Mark Kelly. Donald McMoneagle was born in 1952, former astronaut, veteran of 3 shuttle flights, became manager launch integration at Cape Kennedy Space Center in Florida in August of 1997. July 15th, 1857, we have William Nina Fleming was born, a British-born American astronomer active in the United States. During her career, she helped develop a common designation system for stars, cataloged thousands of stars and other astronomical phenomena. Among several career achievements that achieved advanced astronomy, Fleming is noted for her discovery of the Horsehead Nebula in 1888. And this is KE5ICX. In 1942, on May 15th, Anthony England was born, better known as Tony England, former NASA astronaut, selected in 1967. England was among a group of astronauts who served as backups during the Apollo and Skylab programs. Like most others in his class, he flew during the shuttle program, serving as a mission specialist on STS-51F in 1985. Frank Culbertson, born in 1949 on this date, American former naval officer and aviator, test pilot, aerospace engineer, graduate of the U.S. Naval Academy. He served as commander of the International Space Station for almost 4 months in 2001 and was the only U.S. citizen not on Earth during the September 11th attacks. Let's see. This week in space history, we have the following. NASA's Curiosity Explorer rover, I should say Curiosity rover, took its first test roll on Wednesday, August 22nd, 2012, and beamed back pictures that accomplished a form of tracks. The pattern was Morse code for JPL, the abbreviation for NASA's Jet Propulsion Laboratory in Pasadena, California. I'm looking for the date here. I think there was something about the date, but it got lost. I think it was probably the landing. I'm not sure. In any case, I lost the date on this, but Morse code on Mars. Next up, unfortunately, these patterns created too much wear, so it's not used for Perseverance. And are you ready? Play the little tune in your head if you remember Steve Austin, astronaut. The Northrop M2F3 crashed on May 10th, 1967. It was a heavyweight lifting body rebuilt from the Northrop M2F2 after it crashed at Dryden Flight Research Center, now the Armstrong Research Center, in 1967. It was modified with an additional third vertical fin centered around the tipped fins to improve control characteristics. The M refers to manned and F refers to flight. Early test flight of the M2F1 and M2F2 lifting bodies re-entry configurations had validated the concept of pilot lifting body re-entry from Earth. When the M2F2 crashed on May 10, 1967, valuable information had been obtained and was contributing to new designs. NASA pilots said the M2F2 had lateral control problems, so when the M2F2 was rebuilt at Northrop, it was redesignated to M2F3. After 3 long redesign and rebuilding efforts, the F3 was ready for flight. on May 1967 crash of the M2F2 had torn off the left vertical fin and landing gear. It also damaged the external skin and internal structure. This plane was flown by the fictional Steve Austin, the $6 million man. He was also the last man to walk on the moon, but never did. The crash was depicted in the opening sequence of that show. On May 13, 1963, Faith 7 launched the last Mercury program flight. Mercury Atlas 9 with the final crewed space mission with U.S. Mercury program launched on May 15, 1963 from Launch Complex 14 at Cape Canaveral. The spacecraft named Faith 7 completed 22 Earth orbits before splashing down the Pacific Ocean, piloted by astronaut Gordon Cooper, then a United States Air Force major. The Atlas rockets, number 130-B, and the Mercury spacecraft was number 20. This mission marks the last time an American was launched alone to conduct an entirely solo orbital mission. And then one of my favorites, May 14th, 1973, Skylab 1 was launched. The first U.S. space station launched into Earth orbit on May 14th, 1973. 3 successive crews of visiting astronauts carried out investigations of the human body's adaptation to the space environment and studied the sun in unprecedented detail and undertook pioneering Earth resource observations. And I'm very happy to say, and I always do on this anniversary, that I was there at Cape Kennedy and watched the launch of the last Saturn V, this one to take Skylab into orbit. It was quite an experience, and as we get into heavies again, I'm really excited. I want to go down and see it. There's nothing like it, man. If you've seen an eclipse, it's an amazing thing. To see a Saturn V launch is another amazing thing. It's a powerful rocket. Back to net control. This is KE5ICX.
Thank you very much. I'm so envious that you got to see that launch. I've never seen any kind of launch, and I really always wanted to, as did we all. This is WB50ZL. Does anybody else want to check in?
This is Whiskey Bravo number 4, Mike Foxtrot India WB4MFI, Ted Dallas Low Power.
Okay, we got WB4MFI, Ted. Welcome to the net. Next up, Ms. Carolyn's Constellation of the Week. I'll call on Chaz, KF5JHA. Go ahead.
Thank you, Brenda. Once again, this is Chaz, KF5JHA. Miss Carolyn's Constellation of the Week is named in honor of Silent Key Carolyn, KC5OZT. Carolyn contributed to Skynet each week almost from its beginning in 2012 until May of 2019, with a detailed look at one particular constellation each week. Since there are about 52 easily visible constellations seen in Texas throughout the year, out of the 88 total constellations, so Miss Carolyn covered the entire sky in a year. In her honor, we've continued that tradition of a constellation per week and named it after her. Miss Carolyn's Constellation of the Week this week is actually, it's a twofer. Crater the Cup and Corvus the Crow or Raven. Slide number 13, please, sir. Now, how do you find Crater and Corvus? Let's start with something that we've already talked about. Virgo has a bright star called Spica. It's in the south over there. If you just go down south and a little bit to the right, which is west, from Spica, you'll run into the constellations of both Corvus and Crater. Slide number 14. Okay, you've been waiting for it. You haven't had it the last couple weeks, but now it's back. The jokes of the week. Can you hardly wait? Okay. What do you call an illness that targets crows? Well, COVID-19, of course. Okay, I couldn't have told this joke a couple years ago, but it's okay now. So why are ravens so smart? Because they spend all their time hanging out at the college. Okay, that was a stretch, wasn't it? I saved a baby raven, and now he won't leave. I guess you could say he's my crow. You know, my crow because it's small, my crow because he's mine now. Okay, these are a stretch, aren't they? Before the invention of the crowbar, crows drank at home. Okay, this next one's a long one. What's the difference between a crow and a raven? Well, pinion feathers are the feathers at the tip of a bird's wing and allows it to fly. They're also the ones that people will trim to prevent birds from flying. Crows have 5 pinion feathers, while ravens have 6. So if you think about it, the difference between a crow and a raven is just a matter of opinion. Okay, I borrowed that joke from somewhere else. I don't know about pinion feathers, but I hope it's true. Okay, slide number 15. The constellation of Crater represents a goblet or the cup of Apollo. There's a reason that the 3 constellations of Crater, Corvus, and Hydra are all together in the sky. It's because they are all from the same story in Greek mythology, where Apollo gave his cup to Corvus the crow, or raven, and sent him on a mission to fetch the waters of life. However, Corvus was lazy and rested in a tree while waiting for the fruit to ripen. Yeah, that must have taken a long time, which he ate after a lengthy rest. Then Corvus finally fetched the water, and he also brought back a water snake, using the water snake to lie to Apollo, saying that the snake delayed him. Apollo saw through the lie and angrily threw the crow, the cup, and the water snake into the sky, where they became the constellations of Corvus, the crow, Crater the cup, and Hydra, the water snake. Gamma Craterus is a fairly easy double star. The primary star in the pair is a white A-type main sequence star that shines at magnitude 4, and while its companion shines at a magnitude 9.6. The system is about 84 light years from our solar system. Slide number 16, please. NGC 3513 is a magnitude 11 barred spiral galaxy with some irregular structure. The central bar is fairly easy to make out in a 17-inch class telescope. Some of the spiral arm structure may be seen, but with difficulty. Slide number 17, please. NGC 3511 is another barred spiral galaxy. Its type is SB small b c. In other words, it's a barred spiral. It's a magnitude of 12, and it is 4 by 1 arc minute in area. That's not a very big size. This galaxy is seen obliquely, which makes it difficult to clearly resolve the spiral arms. NGC 3511 and 3513 together make a nice galaxy pair in the same field of view of your telescope. And this is KF5JHA, and this is Skynet. Slide number 18, please. Corvus is a Latin word that means crow or raven. In taxonomy, the science of animal classification, the genus Corvus includes both crows and ravens. Corvus and the neighboring constellation Crater, the cup, both appear to be riding on the back of Hydra, the water snake. And I've already told you the story about them. Algorba, Delta Corvi, is the Arabic word which means raven. Algorba is a double star and is easily split Its binary nature was first noted by John Herschel and J. South in 1823. No change in position or separation has been seen between the two stars since then. But Algorba is a true binary star, since both stars share the same proper motion. The bright star appears and shines at magnitude 2.95, while the companion is at a magnitude of 8.5. Opinions differ as to the color of the two stars, ranging from a white and orange to a pale yellow and a purple. I've really not seen any purple stars. Slide number 19, please. The Stargate. And let me quote from the Texas Astronomical Society newsletter called the Spectrum article. And I quote, "The Stargate cluster is an asterism found by Texas Astronomical Society member John Wagner while he was searching for M104 with his binoculars. This group of stars reminded John of the Stargate used by Buck Rogers to travel into outer space. So John named it Stargate. Officially, the cluster is categorized as STF 1659. This is from the catalog from Frederick Struve, who also noted the group in 1832. The Stargate is also known as HD 109556. The cluster consists of a set of 6 stars that form a set of nested quadrilateral triangles. In other words, a triangle inside of a triangle. John named the group the Stargate at the Texas Star Party back in the 1980s, and the name stuck. There's actually an arrow of stars pointing right to the Stargate, and if you're watching the video portion of Skynet, you'll see that dotted line going from one corner of Corvus up to the Stargate itself. I got to observe that at the West Texas Star Party a little bit more than a week ago, and it was fantastic to see. It's easy to see even in binoculars, but it's really great to see in a telescope. Slide number 20, please. Now, I just mentioned this, M104, the Sombrero Galaxy, also known as NGC 4594. It's really in Virgo. It's at the border between Corvus and Virgo, but I'm going to talk about it because it's so close to the Virgo-Corvus border. So I'm going to include it here. Besides, before the constellation boundary lines were formalized by the International Astronomical Union in 1930, M104 was often listed as being in Corvus. Many astronomers believe that M104 is an outlying member of the Virgo cluster of galaxies. In his book, The Mezzi Objects, Stephen J. O'Meara notes that M104 has a place in history. In 1913, Vesto Slipher of Lowell Observatory studied the spectrum of M104 and became the first astronomer to detect rotation in a galaxy other than our own. Well, that's pretty cool. M104, by the way, was very nice through several different telescopes I observed it through, including the 16-inch Dobsonian that I have, and it was really, really fantastic in there. Okay, slide number 21, please. NGC 4027 is another unusual galaxy. It's located very close to the Antenna Galaxy, about 40 arc minutes away, and both it and the Antenna Galaxy can fit in the same low-powered field of view. However, it is a bit difficult to see, and you'll need a clear, dark, moonless night to find it. Robert Burnham, Jr., in Burnham's Celestial Handbook, notes that in 1943, Harlow Shapley wrote that NGC 4027 and NGC 4038, 4039 are almost certainly physically associated or have been. Burnham writes that this probable companion system, NGC 4038 and 4039, resembles a one-armed spiral with its single tail curved to the north and east in a general direction of a ringtail. The projected separation of the two systems is about 1 million light years, which implies that the interaction, if any, must have occurred at some distant time in the past when the separation was much less. And this is KF5, JHA. This is Skynet. Slide number 22, please, sir. There are more Astronomical League observing program objects in the constellation of Crater the Cup and Corvus the Crow, or Raven. I'm just giving you a sampling of some of those objects. The Astronomical League has over 70, and I believe it's 72 or 73 different observing programs. Most of those observing programs have about 100 objects. So, if you observe just 10 different objects in an observing program each month, then you can earn an observing certificate and a pen in about a year. Slide number 23. And that's Miss Carolyn's constellations of the week, Crater the Cup and Corvus the Crow or Raven. I want to thank my friends Dave Hutchinson and Dennis Harwell for their research and words on deep sky objects that I've used, borrowed, and I always steal for tonight and almost every week. I also, at times, use the website constellation-guide.com for information. Next week, we'll take a look at 2 constellations, another 2 for Ursa Major, the big bear, and Ursa Minor, the little bear. I hope you can bear to wait until next week. This is KF5, JJ. Brenda, it's yours. Get me out of this.
Thank you, Jazz. This is WB5OZL. Do we have any more check-ins?
Kilo Bravo 9, Sierra Oscar Kilo, Sean in Fort Worth.
Kilo Golf 5, Zulu India X-Ray, Joe and Wiley.
Okay, we have KB9SOK, Sean, and KG5, Zulu India X-Ray, Joe. Thanks for joining. All right, next up, we have space launches for this week. Tom, KE5, ICX. Take it away.
Thank you, Ms. Brenda. This is KE5ICX. Hopefully this afternoon you got a chance to see the SpaceX launch, another 60 satellites going into orbit for the satellite constellation for internet service that SpaceX has been working on. Perfect flight. I think the first stage had 8 different launches, or 7 launches before this, the 8th. So that was kind of cool. The fairings that were used on top are being recovered for the second time, and then finally they released the satellites. We mentioned that on TechNet earlier tonight. So these things are going up about once every 2 weeks. Okay, stuff that's coming up this week, May 17th, we have an Atlas V launch. This is the big boy, SLC-41 from Cape Canaveral. The Atlas V rocket will launch the U.S. Space Force's 5th space-based infrared system geosynchronous satellite, or SBIRS GEO-5, for missile early warning detection. The rocket will fly in the 421 vehicle configuration for 4-meter fairing, 2 solid rocket boosters, and a single-engine Centaur upper stage. May 20th, we have a Long March 7, Tianzhou 2. This will launch from Wencheng, China. The Long March 7 will launch the Tianzhou 2 resupply ship to dock with the Chinese space station. The automatic cargo craft will be the first resupply freighter to the Chinese space station. It's brand new, is currently unmanned, but I'm sure that will change soon. And on the competition when it comes to Sky Internet, we have a launch from Vostochny Cosmodrome in Russia. This will be May 27th, Soyuz OneWeb 7. The rocket will launch 36 satellites into orbit for OneWeb, which is developing a constellation of hundreds of satellites in low Earth orbit for low latency broadband communications. The Soyuz, everybody say it together, 2.1B rocket will use the Fregat upper stage. We say this every time. Then we have on May 27th a Long March 3B. This one from Chaiqing, China. The Fringen 4B. This is a Long March 3B rocket will launch the 4B geostationary weather satellite, the second in a new generation of Chinese meteorological observatories. So that's it. There's tons of launches. There's stuff going on all the time, almost daily, with so many spaceports now there around the world and launching. We have, 4 here in the United States now. So crazy stuff, but welcome to the 21st century and beyond. Back to net control. This is KE5I6.
KF5JHA, recheck.
KF5JHA, go ahead.
Thank you, Brenda. Thank you, Tom. Just wanted to let all of you know that it's interesting that you can actually see some of the SpaceLink SpaceX satellites. While I was at the West Texas Star Party near Fort Davis, one evening, I believe it was Wednesday evening, that would be a week ago Wednesday evening, we saw a whole string of them in the evening sky in twilight. It was great. All 60 of them just parading one after another one. And then later that morning, in other words, Thursday morning, got to see a whole string of them again. The same 60 was marching across the sky just before morning twilight, and they're very easy to see. Now, they were bright enough that you could probably see them even in the city. So when you see the launches of SpaceX, go to heavens-above and see if you can find the predictions for our area. So this is KF5JHA. Back to net control.
Thank you, Chaz. All right, our next segment is recent astronomical discoveries, and I am presenting that. The title is How Planets Form Controls Elements Essential for Life. Rice scientists attribute Earth's nitrogen to rapid growth of moon to Mars-sized bodies. The prospects for life on a given planet depend not only on where it forms, but also how, according to Rice University scientists. Planets like Earth that orbit within the solar system's Goldilocks zone, with conditions supporting liquid water and a rich atmosphere, are more likely to harbor life. As it turns out, how that planet came together also determines whether it captured and retained certain volatile elements and compounds, including nitrogen, carbon, and water, that give rise to life. In a study published Nature Geoscience, Rice graduate student and lead author Damanveer Grewal and Professor Rajdeep Dasgupta show the competition between the time it takes the material to accrete into a protoplanet and the time the protoplanet takes to separate into its distinct layers: a metallic core, a shell of silicate mantle, and an atmospheric envelope in a process called planetary differentiation. Is critical in determining what volatile elements the rocky planet retains. Using nitrogen as proxy for volatiles, the researchers showed most of the nitrogen escapes into the atmosphere of protoplanets during differentiation. This nitrogen is subsequently lost to space as the protoplanet either cools down or collides with other protoplanets or cosmic bodies during the next stage of its growth. This process depletes nitrogen in the atmosphere and mantle of rocky planets, but if the metallic core retains enough, it could still be a significant source of nitrogen during the formation of Earth-like planets. Dasgupta's high-pressure lab at Rice captured protoplanetary differentiation in action to show the affinity of nitrogen toward metallic cores. We simulated high-pressure temperature conditions by subjecting a mixture of nitrogen-bearing metal and silicate powders to nearly 30,000 times the atmospheric pressure and heating them beyond their melting points, Grewal said. Small metallic blobs embedded in the silicate gases of the recovered samples were respective analogs of protoplanetary cores and mantles. Using this experimental data, the researchers modeled the thermodynamic relationships to show how nitrogen distributes between the atmosphere, molten silicate, and core. We realize the fractionization of nitrogen between all these reservoirs is very sensitive to the size of the body, Gruel said. Using this idea, we could calculate how nitrogen would have separated between different reservoirs of protoplanetary bodies through time to finally build a habitable planet like Earth. Their theory suggests that feedstock materials for Earth grew quickly to around Moon and Mars-sized planetary embryos before they completed the process of differentiating into the familiar metal silicate gas vapor arrangement. In general, they estimate the embryos formed within 1 to 2 million years of the beginning of the solar system, far sooner than the time it took for them to completely differentiate. If the rate of differentiation was faster than the rate of accretion for those embryos, the rocky planets forming them could not have accreted enough nitrogen and likely other volatiles critical to developing conditions that support life. Our calculations show that forming an Earth-sized planet via planetary embryos that grew extremely quickly before undergoing metal silicate differentiation sets a unique pathway to satisfy Earth's nitrogen budget, said Dasgupta, the principal investigator of Clever Planets, a NASA-funded collaborative project exploring how life-essential elements might have come together on rocky planets in our solar system or on distant rocky exoplanets. This work shows there's much greater affinity of nitrogen toward core-forming metallic liquid than previously thought, he said. The study follows earlier works when showing how the impact of a moon-forming body could have given Earth much of its volatile content, and another suggesting that the planet gained more of its nitrogen from local sources in the solar system than once believed. In the latter study, Gruel said, we showed that protoplanets growing in both inner and outer regions of the solar system accreted nitrogen, and Earth sourced its nitrogen by accreting protoplanets from both of these regions. However, it was unknown as to how the nitrogen budget of Earth was established. We're making a big claim that will go beyond just the topic of the origin of volatile elements in nitrogen and will impact a cross-section of the scientific community interested in planet formation and growth, Dasgupta said. This is from ScienceDaily.com, and we'll go back to the net. This is WB50ZL. Do we have anybody else that wants to check in? All right, next on the list, visible satellite passages over the next couple of days. Tom, KE5ICX, do you have something to present to us?
Yes, Miss Brenda. Well, unfortunately, we had tonight. It would have been nice to have seen the nice high pass that we had of the International Space Station, but I got some alternate passes. I get this information from, where do I get this information from? Heavens-above.com. Heavensabove.com. Plug in your longitude and latitude. You can find that out online, and then you get this information. No programs needed. So let's see here. We've got two coming up outside of tonight, which would have been great if we could have seen it. May 16th. There is actually three passes. The best pass is, I'm looking here, minus 3.7 magnitude. That's extremely bright. At 5:19 a.m., it reaches highest point at 5:22 at 56 degrees, and it'll fall at 5:26 to the south-southeast. So it's a really great pass. On May 17th, there are actually two passes that day. The best one is in the morning at 4:33 at minus 3.6 magnitude. Again, very bright. Reaches its highest point at 72 degrees at 4:35 and then falls at 4:38. Next is the X-37B. That's the unmanned mini space shuttle that's been in orbit. And typically, I think there's two of these things. I don't know if they reuse them or not. Maybe they do, maybe they don't. But in any case, this one has been in orbit now for, I think, about a year. There is a very good pass on May 16th, a 0.7 magnitude, a lot dimmer, but still visible at 21:05 local time. It will reach its highest point at 71 degrees at 21:09, and it falls at 21:11 that evening at 16 degrees. So it's a full pass. Gosh, I guess that's it. That's all I did on this one. Go to heavens-above.com, plug that stuff in. By the way, this also works very well for if you're doing amateur satellite passes and you just want to know when they're going over and set up your radios for whatever it is they're doing, data or repeater type things. Go there, you'll find them. That's it from me. Back to net control. This is KE5ICX.
Thank you. Do we have any more check-ins? Okay, getting to the end here. We're going to come back, though, with the Afterglow movie net. In 5 or 10 minutes, we'll have Tom set a time for us. And the movie is 2:22. That's 2:22, like on a clock. All right, tonight we had 20 hams participating here. Thank you to all who checked in this evening. We hope you'll join us here next week and every Saturday night at 9 p.m. to discuss astronomy, space, and space exploration. On this net, the sky is never the limit. We're always looking for net control stations for this and all other DARC nets. If you would like to try your hand at this, contact any of the net controls by sending an email to nets@w5fc.org. You can follow topics and discussions about this net and astronomy in general on Facebook and Twitter, as well as our audio and video streams, video archives, and other useful internet resources by going to w5fc.org at the end of this net. Until next Saturday night, this is Whiskey Bravo 5, Oscar Zulu Lima. Name is Brenda, and I will be closing the net at 10:23 local time, returning the repeater to normal amateur use. 73, everybody, and enjoy the evening discovering the universe. Okay, Tom, do we have information on the Afterglow net?
Yes, we'll start at around 10:30. As soon as you hear the Skynet announcement, or the Afterglow movie announcement, we'll start that. We'll need a net control. Anybody wants to be net control, better known as Spartacus, you can go ahead. I'll go looking for people here at the last few minutes. So we'll be back here at 10:30. Go powder your noses. Come back for 222, not room 22, the movie 222. We'll be back then. KE5ICX, back to you. We're getting close to Spartacus time. Who wants to be Spartacus? Please come now.
Tom, I don't want to do it because I didn't like this movie. And if you go on very long, I'm just going to leave in FABB.
Normal state.
But you might be able to bring it to a higher level, Bill.
That's not possible. I really don't want to stay very long on this. I'm serious. In FABB.
Well, that will determine the massive check-ins this evening. All right, Bill is bugged out. Anyone else? Anyone? Anyone at all? Bueller? Bueller? Come on, somebody wants to be net control for this. It would be great. It's just like Captain Smith on the Titanic. You know this. Come on, somebody say something. Step up.
I'm completely operational, and all my circuits are functioning perfectly.
Afterglow movie net.
See, Hal is even going crazy, Tom. He's going psychotic in FABB.
All right, I'll do it. I already did another net this evening. But it's okay. Nobody else wants to do it. That's fine. 2 minutes. 2 minutes. All right, let me finish my grilled cheese sandwich. Another 30 seconds. All right, here we go. This is Kilo Echo 5 India Charlie X-ray again. Net control, helping net control for tonight's Afterglow Movie Net. What is the Afterglow Movie Net, you ask? Most people know when they go and turn their radio off. But other people who are informed and care and think that we should push cinema to its limits, whether it needs to or not, enjoy an evening talking about a movie. Sometimes talking about a movie longer than the movie actually appears in running time. This one will probably be an exception, but you never know. The movie is 222, not room 22. Some of you are humming the Jerry Goldsmith theme, but no, not room 222. 222, as in the time of 2:22 in the afternoon. So what is this thing? Well, the movie, and then I'll explain the rules right after that. It's a 2017 American-Australian science fiction thriller film filmed at Grand Central Station, which is, of course, somewhere in Melbourne, Australia. Let's see, it involves an air traffic controller, Dylan Branson, who, thanks to a mysterious anomaly at 2:22, prevented the collision of two aircraft and met Sarah, whose destinies appear to be tied to a time of 2:22. The film was released in theaters on video on demand on June 30th, 2017. All right, I'm looking at the synopses and see what I can go through, so I'll just give you a little bit here. Dylan Branson works as ATC controller at JFK JFK Airport. One morning he sees a TV news announcement that a supernova 30 light years away from Earth can now be observed in the sky. He has a recurring dream of a shooting taking place at Grand Central Station at exactly 2:22 p.m. A few days later, at 2:22 p.m., while Dylan is at work, he begins to hallucinate, seeing constellations and patterns instead of his surroundings at the airport. He breaks out of his fugue state, only just in time to prevent a collision between the two planes. Following this, Dylan is suspended from work, and rightfully so. Dylan begins to realize that the same thing happens to him at the same time every day, and by 2:21, he somehow always arrives at Grand Central Station where, although the individuals themselves differ, he always sees the same type of people: a businessman reading a newspaper, an older couple embracing, a party of school children, and a pregnant woman standing alone under the clock. At exactly 2:22, an electrical malfunction causes glass to shatter. Meanwhile, he meets a woman named Sarah. Yeah, okay, this is the minor court part. It's really boring. Who's a passenger of one of the planes which almost collided. Dylan and Sarah immediately feel they have known each other for many years, and also learn that they were born on the same day. They fall in love and begin an affair. Yawn. Sarah works as an art gallery, one of the exhibiting artists of her ex-boyfriend, Jonas, what a loser, who still has feelings for Sarah. She wears a pendant Jonas crafted for her as a birthday present. Has that GPS system in it? No, it doesn't. Alright, there's a holographic depiction of New York, thanks to Dylan, includes Grand Central. Dylan's astonished that the holograph depicts the same events he saw in his recurring dream. Boring. Though a colleague of Sarah, Dylan learns the story of a young woman, Evelyn Mills, who was killed by her lover at Grand Central Station. Surprise. The lover shot a policeman before being killed himself. Dylan finds a packet of old letters hidden in his own apartment, which revealed a man called Jake Redmond once lived in the apartments. The letters are love letters from Jake to Evelyn Mills. What do I want to do? No. Let's see here. Dylan believes the supernova which occurred on the day that Jake and Evelyn died, the same day Dylan and Sarah were born, created a cosmic cataclysm, which means that he and Sarah are destined to relive the fates of Jake and Evelyn. Dylan is convinced that if they stay together, he will kill Sarah the following day, the anniversary of the Grand Central murders. A distressed Sarah confides in Jonas, who persuades her to go away with him. The next day, his 30th birthday, Dylan struggles to find what he believes is the missing piece of the puzzle. He breaks into Jonas' studio where he finds dozens of depictions of Sarah, evidencing Jonah's obsession with her. There's also an empty gun case. Surprise. Dylan finally realized that Jonas is destined to relive the part of Detective Noah Marks. As the time approaches, Dylan rushes to the station to find her. Meanwhile, only 2 more paragraphs. Meanwhile, at Grand Central, Jonas goes to buy tickets while Sarah waits under the clock. She begins to see the same characters that Dylan describes, and dawns on her she is a pregnant woman under the clock. When Jonas returns, she tells him she loves Dylan and cannot leave. In a jealous rage, everybody together, Jonas pulls out a gun, but Dylan arrives in time to block Sarah's body with his own. Taking the bullet himself, Jonas is then killed by police. It transpires that Jake did not kill Evelyn, who was herself pregnant, but that the pair of them were shot by Noah Marks, who was in love with Evelyn. Jake was framed in the murders by the police. In the final scenes, Dylan has recovered and now works as a pilot. Oh, great. He and Sarah live happily together with their baby. The only problem with this is the horror story begins because Dylan now works for Spirit Airlines. Okay, and with that, I'm going to go ahead and explain the rules, and then I'll take check-ins. Now, if you haven't run away, bolted, left the country, changed your identity, let's move forward. We take a movie, we watch it every week. People will admit to seeing it or say they didn't see it or fell asleep during it or fell asleep during the net. I have done all of those, and in one case I was net control. So, where I fell asleep during the net. That might happen, that might not this evening, but in this case, the thing is, we discuss a plot, followed by characterization, followed by generally anything you want. It's usually special effects, music, photography, whatever it is. Or if we run out of ideas for the movie and we just want to talk about bad movies in general, we can do that. This one might fall into that category. I don't know. At least it was in HD. Most of the time we watched them in blurry vision. So I'm going to go ahead and take check-ins. Now remember, just because you check in first does not mean that you'll be first to be called upon to give your synopses and your evaluations of the movie. It could be the last guy ends up being the first guy that talks about the movie. Or the person in the middle who is not first, not last, ends up first in talking about the movie. Or last. Maybe I won't call on any of you. That's a possibility too. And I start making phone calls and I call people to get on the net. That could happen, but don't count on it. So here we go. I will take check-ins. Here's how we do that. You come with your call sign, your name. You can give where you're at currently, or just or tell us if you saw the movie 222 from 2017. So please come with your call sign phonetically, your name, where you're located if you want, and did you see 222? And no is perfectly fine. We'll give you questions to answer. Please come now.
Oh, this may be a short net. This is N5BB, Bill. In Irving, I did see the movie, and no, I'm not at Grand Central Station.
This is Kilo Golf 5, Papa Mike November, James up here in Walters, Oklahoma. I saw the movie.
Whiskey Bravo 5, Oscar Zulu Lima. Name is Brenda. I'm in DeSoto. I missed the first 25 minutes of the movie, but I saw the rest of it.
Whiskey 5, Echo Bravo Bravo, David in Dallas. Yes, I saw it.
KF5, I did not see it, just listening.
All right, let me get the folks that did check in. I got N5BB, Bill in Irving. Yep, you saw it. KG5PM and James in northern Oklahoma. Well, north of Texas, I know. Yes, he saw it. WB50ZL. Brenda in DeSoto. Yes, she saw it. W5EBB. David, he's back. He did see it. And I think it was KF5GBC. You were real light into the repeater, but let's see here. I'm looking through the notes from previous net. At any rate, he did not see it, and he's monitoring only. So I'll call on you if you see something that's egregious. Go ahead and come back in with break. Anyone else wants to check in? We're talking about the movie 222. No, not that one. The other 222, the movie. If you'd like to join us, please come with your call sign. You don't even have to have seen the movie. We can discuss thriller, romantic, science fiction films with supernovas. That'll be the discussion. And you will fit in right in. Anyone else dare to step up and discuss this movie or not? Please come with your call sign name. Let me know if you saw the movie.
That was Golf Bravo Tango. Golf Bravo Tango.
Kilo Bravo 9, Sierra Oscar Kilo. Sean in Fort Worth. Yes, I seen the movie.
All right, very good. I got a correction on that. I got KF5 Golf Bravo Tango. Did not see the movie, but I'll call on you to see what you think of the movie. So I got your call corrected. I get KB9 SOK. That's Sean in Fort Worth. Yep. He saw the movie. So we've got some live ones here. Let's do this. Bill says he's probably going to leave us and running away. He probably rooster tail in his car, with stones flying everywhere as he exits the crime scenes. So we'll start with plot. N5BB, Bill, your thoughts about the plot to this film until you stopped watching, which I sense you might have. Go ahead, from KE5ICF.
This is N5BB. No, I'm in the taxi cab that gets crunched and spins upside down, and does not send the protagonist to the hospital, even though he should go to the hospital. So, I did not like the plot. Okay, to put it in a few words, the movie opened with a few things that seemed like it might be some kind of conventional science fiction movie, and then toward the middle, maybe of some kind of looping in time movie. But those plot things really didn't get resolved. Instead, they got just really fuzzy. And at the end of the movie, nothing got resolved. They got married, everybody lived happily ever after, with no explanation. None. Zilch. Nada. And I'm left very unfulfilled in watching this movie. What happened? They don't care. After the end of the thing, they don't really care. They don't know. They don't have any theories. The movie doesn't present any theories. The only thing is this weird astrology-like 3 stars, or actually it's one supernova with some other stars forming an asterism, which makes no sense. Why is this triangular thing, and they project this triangular asterism over various things during the movie? So what? The movie doesn't say that magic is involved. It doesn't make any sense at all. It's like they threw things at you trying to see if anything would stick. But no, it just runs off. That's why I don't like it. They just keep throwing different things at you. They don't resolve any of them. None of them make sense. And it just all... Hold on. My smart speaker was making noises at me. There's no resolution in it. That's what I like. Also, the science is stupid. that supernova 30 years away, number one, we would not know that this light was going to appear until it was here, which this happened in another movie we were on. You wouldn't know it was going to be here until it was here. And there's nothing in the movie talking about scientists discovered something getting ready to go supernova. They knew that the supernova light was going to get here. Well, that's not going to happen. And number one, that the supernova, the radiation or light from the supernova isn't going to cause any of the things we saw. So anyway, I am very unhappy with the plot. Graded F-. I'm not going to say more about the plot in 5BB.
All right, Bill. Somehow or another, I can visualize you with your hands crossed and slightly pouty mode, like your 2 hours of your life were ripped from you that you will never get back, and you have mental injuries from watching this film. I just feel it. Just think of it as a science fiction Hallmark movie. Come on. And the good news is it's not even blurry like all the Hallmark movies. Nobody died of a disease, a common disease, or even an uncommon disease. None of that. No cheesy music. It actually had... Oh, never mind. Let me go on. Next up, KG5PMN, James. He's up in Oklahoma. He comes back and endures this net every week, but he's always there. James, your thought on the plot from KE5ICX.
This Kilo Golf 5, Papa Mike November, James up here just outside of Walters, about 30, 40 miles, kind of northeast of Wichita Falls. The plot. Well, the plot had a beginning and an ending. It looked to me like there's a lot of, not a lot of, but enough time wasting in the movie to maybe have shortened it up some. It also kind of made me think of a single point in time of a Caddyshack remake into a science fiction movie. I think it was Caddyshack where Chevy Chase kept reliving the day over and over, but this was a single point in time. And it just seemed like it had a lot of really disjointed scenes, which kind of made it flow together for the movie, but he kept, some of the scenes where he just kept running, sort of like the train rides and all that stuff. It really didn't seem to fit too well, but anyway, the overturned cab, well, I would think that he would not get up and run away, and I kind of missed the part where the police got to chasing him for whatever reason, and before he wound up at the train station at the shooting. But send it back to the net, KG5PMN.
Okay, James. Well, that was short and sweet, but that's okay. But we'll see. There's more to come because when we reveal the characters, that's going to be really interesting. Or not. Next up is Miss Brenda, WB5OZL. Your thoughts on the plot for this movie called 222. Not at Walt Whitman High. That's the time where everything goes wrong. Go ahead, from KE5I6.
Thank you. This is WB5OZL. This was kind of a remake of Groundhog Day, but except the guy was a little cuter than Bill Murray, but Bill Murray is more interesting. So it's almost like we got to do a theme, so we're going to build on that. And they didn't really have enough to go on, but they just kept building it. And I think somebody said, an hour and a half of my life was just robbed from me. It's not like there's a hole that is just gone. They came in and damaged it. Now I have to look at the mess. So it was kind of harmful. I don't normally like to hurt myself with movies like this, but this did. On the other hand, the kids were really cute, and so a lot of eye candy there, and a lot of things did make sense. Like, why would you go to Grand Central Station when you know there's going to be a murder? I think I'd be in Vermont, far, far away from there. It would be one place to not go to, but they did. Like a moth to a flame. They just went there. Let's see. Plot. I think there was a plot in there somewhere. It also kind of reminded me of a movie called The Langoliers, where death chased you around and you could not avoid it. Nobody ever explained it. Like in this one, people didn't really explain what was going on here and why. You just kind of had to accept it. So, but except for the artist, it had a pretty good ending. Although I didn't understand. Here he is in his little pilot monkey suit, and he's walking down the street past her house. He looks up at her, and she looks down, and she's got a baby in there. And then he turns around and walks away. I thought, okay, did he just drop by? Does he live there? What's going on? And Tom, your remark about spirit is really not okay. So, and he didn't look like a pilot either. He didn't have epaulets. All right, I'll turn it over. WB50ZL.
Brenda always says that. I pick on Spirit Airlines, the big yellow banana when it's flying over the house. All I can imagine, and sometimes I get out my binoculars because I live underneath 18 left for DFW Airport. I live in Louisville. All the planes fly over. When Spirit flies over, I get my binoculars out, and I try and see through the windows the horrified looks on all of the people's faces as the plane comes in for a landing. You realize the flight attendant's running around collecting landing fees because they don't have enough to land. It's very important. So there's more to it than that, but it doesn't matter. She just yells at me and screams at me and throws heavy objects at me when I see her in person, which will probably be the first time in a year, one of these days. Okay, let's see. Next up is David, W5EBB. Tell us your thoughts. Now, you usually have, and I have no doubt that you're going to have a very interesting analysis of this. You always have an excellent analysis of any movie. So please, explain 222 to us, because we need an explanation from KE5ICX.
Well, thanks, Tom, but let me first jump on that bandwagon about Spirit. Now, this is the airline where you pay more for your seat selection and your baggage fees than your actual fare. Is that the same airline? I think it is. Now, what Bill was saying about the supernova not being able to cause this kind of disruption, I think that's correct. Now, what can cause that kind of power surge in the power grid is a CME, a coronal mass ejection. But as far as I know, that just comes from the sun, and it can cause some power outages and fluctuations and that, cold weather. 222. Why 222? Well, I guess it's better than 333 or 666. And if your clock reads 666, you better send it in for repair or call an exorcist. Let me reset. Now, the opening scenes of this movie kind of set the stage that it's going to be somewhat incredulous. Now, obviously, you can't be an air traffic controller with a hotshot maverick attitude like this guy had. It's not a game to see who can direct the planes the fastest, narrowly averting disaster. Efficiency is important, yeah, but not at the expense of safety. The controller should have been fired in that first scene where on transverse runways, one plane was rolling while another one was landing. That's a career-ending mistake. It's not a little mistake at work, as Dylan told his new girlfriend after the aerial ballet, which I fast-forwarded through. I hope it didn't miss anything. The controller tells the rolling airplane to punch it when it's already at full power and about to take off. That was all Hollywood. Unless Boeing and Airbus now offer an optional afterburner engine upgrade. So since the movie can't get reality right, it's best that they move along without delay to the more fantastic plot elements. Now, I say that, but ironically, there was actually a mid-air collision between two small planes a few days ago at Denver Centennial Airport. No casualties, but both planes sustained major damage. One landed with a large part of the fuselage top gone, and the other deployed an emergency parachute and floated to the ground in the field. And it looked to me like a combination of air traffic control and pilot error. Air traffic control was packing them in too densely on parallel runways and didn't allow for adequate spacing for the possibility of overshoot in the final turn to line up to the runway by one of the planes, or that the pilots might not have visual confirmation on the specific planes that ATC was telling them to watch out for. So that's kind of ironic. But for this movie, whoever it was at the controls of the Heart of Gold quantum reality simulator had just nudged the controls a bit. If they had just nudged it one way or the other, these incidents depicted like a traffic accident, a busted knee, a plane crash, would or would not have happened. It just depends on whether he, she, or it at the controls was feeling benevolent or ornery that day. W5EBB.
Thank you, David. I knew you would make some sense out of senselessness and push us forward. I love your comments, especially about gunning it and where are the afterburners when they're already at full power. There's a lot to say. I was going to say some of that, but I'm glad you did first because it matters in the scheme of things, even though nothing else in the movie really does. Okay, let's see. Next up, and by the way, we're talking about, this is the Afterglow Movie Net, this is KE5ICX. We're talking about a movie 222 from 2017. Probably never heard of it. It's a made-for-TV movie, although the production values on it aren't bad at all. It looks visually okay, but not so sure about everything else. I think we got, next up, if you're still there, K5GBT, Golf Bravo Tango. I think that's John. I couldn't quite get your name, so I snuck online and found John. So you did not see the movie, but if you're still out there, tell us, would you see the movie? Does it remind you of anything you've seen in the past? Do you have flashbacks, post-traumatic stress disorder from this film? Please go ahead. Any comments you want, you can make right now. No holds barred. Go ahead from KE5ICX. We can hear you. Your audio is rather low, so we're going to have to turn you up to 11. But go ahead. Let's see if we can pick you up.
Yeah, it said it sounds similar to Les Lolo Run.
noisy into the repeater. I tell you what, I'm going to move on right now, but we'll come back, and if you can increase power, improve position, we'll go ahead and take everything you got to say about the movie on this next round. But you're super weak, and there's a lot of noise. But we're glad you're here. Just can't quite hear you. So let's see. Sean is next. KB9SOK. Sean, you saw the film. Your comments on the plot. Go ahead.
Yeah, this is KB9SOK. Well, as it's been very thoroughly covered, yes, the science in this movie was really, really bad. Everything from what caused the incident to even the simple things about the air traffic controllers and the planes and what have you. Yes, it was really, really bad in that area. They tried to sort of explain it by essentially saying that it was caused by this supernova, but that was probably about as far as they got with it. So yeah, that was pretty bad. And then there's it's already been mentioned about the plane, and then even when he met her at the performance, I even found that scene kind of creepy where he was following her around, and there's a lot of problems with this plot. But the one thing I will say about it, and that I thought maybe it actually had a little potential, had they'd had a much better science explanation, was we've seen this kind of plot a million times in the Star Trek series, to where you have the time loop and they got to do something to fix it, to get out of it, or change something slightly each time around, but no one remembers what happens except for one person. That's been so overplayed a million times that when I initially heard the plot of this movie, I was actually kind of dreading it, actually, just because of that. Because we've just seen it done so many times, the whole groundhog thing. But what I did like was that they attempted to do it differently. Yes, there was a little bit of a loop there, but it wasn't the exact same thing over and over. And the people were aware, or could become aware, of the situation starting to repeat themselves. But the days were advancing, so they attempted to advance the plot by doing it that way. So it was kind of nice to see that they tried to make the story advance instead of repeating the same 15 minutes for 2 hours. So I kind of liked that idea. It's just unfortunately they just didn't have the rest of that to support that thought. And maybe this has been, the exact story's been done kind of before, to where it wasn't just a repeating of the same minutes or the same day. But like I said, I had some hopes for it as it started, because I thought, well, this is a different way, a different approach of the time loop thing, because it really wasn't a true time loop. But it just, unfortunately, the rest of it just wasn't there. Back to net control. This is KB9SOK.
Thank you, Sean, and excellent points all. I will make some comments here in a minute as soon as I find out, is there anybody else out there who would like to check in tonight? Tonight's Afterglow movie net is 222 from the year 2017. Kind of a time loop story, a romantic, weird thing. Maybe you've seen it, maybe you haven't. I don't know. Please come with your call sign, your name, and did you see the movie?
Golf 5, Bravo, Zulu, Whiskey, J, near Weatherford, on Eclipse.
Okay, we picked up Jay near Weatherford, KG5BZW. Jay, you're on the spot. Did you see the movie, 222? If you did, tell us what did you think about the plot from KE5ICX?
Yeah, this is KG5BZW. Yeah, I saw it. It's like, what? I put in my hour, whatever, I guess hour almost 2 hours worth to watch this film, so I might as well make something of it and try to comment on it to make it, worth the effort. I kind of agree with a lot of what's already been said. I do agree with the last guy. This is a time loop story kind of thing. I do like they were trying to explore something, even though it's overall execution. I'm kind of back all over the place here, but the idea that something happens, but not the same person, the same actors, in terms of not literal, like an actor as in a person or thing or entity that's doing something, not necessarily as movie actor or theater actor or whatever. I'm just that type of actor, a computer being an actor, that kind of thing, or in an unintelligent object doing the same thing over and over. I'm kind of actually reading it maybe more into it than is really there. And honestly, I thought the aerial, whatever, oh gosh, what did they call it? The kind of Cirque du Soleil kind of stuff wasn't too bad. That was probably the best part of the movie, because the plot was just kind of, it wasn't sci-fi, it was some sort of weird mysticism crap, astrological crap that just, oh man. Ooh, these patterns, yeah, they even tried to highlight the fact that, there's a weakness in this guy seeing patterns and adding some elements to the story, but they just don't explain a lot. What bugged me about the film is I thought I had seen part of it before, and I think it's one of those things that I had seen the end of it. Like I think I have a feeling I may have seen the end of this film or something before I saw it for this viewing, for this the commentary tonight. And when you don't know what's going on, it makes it a much more interesting film. But when you see it, it's like I almost wonder if I don't know, they pulled some sort. I'm trying to figure out what if they could then to improve it. I'm almost wondering about adding some sort of like memento kind of crap. Maybe a bit better, but I don't know. The thing is, memento actually makes sense when it's viewed. When you think about it, at least most of it, as far as I can't recall about it. I don't know why I'm bringing it up. So yeah, not the best film. I don't know. I really can't say I hate it, but I don't really like it. KG5BGW.
Thank you, Jay. And yeah, your tracking on this film, I think, is dead on. Nobody knows what the heck was going on. So let's see. Any additional check-ins before I give my comments? You can, because I'll comment on your comments. Anyone else want to join us? Tonight's movie, 222, a time-looping story thingy, I'm not sure what, from 2017. If you'd like to join us, you don't even have to see the movie. It's okay. Please come to your call, your name, Let us know if you saw the movie or not. It doesn't really matter. And we'll put you on the list. We'll even let you rant and rave about any other looping time travel story. Please come now.
WT9V, Michael. I don't have any comments at the moment, although I might come up with some later. I did see the movie, or at least most of it, but yeah, I think I had comments, but I can't remember what they were right now, so maybe they'll come back to me. WT9V.
All right, Michael, I will tell you this. I will let you sit out this round, but then you're going to have to come back and make some comments on the upcoming round because you need to. We know you saw the movie because you were watching the movie with us at a distance, at a very long distance. All right, my comments about the movie. Okay, there was a movie that I remember called Pushing Tin, which was kind of silly but a lot of fun, having to do with air traffic controllers. That's how this movie started out. And the fact that an ATC guy would go and deliberately put hundreds, thousands, millions of people, well, hundreds of people's lives in danger, deliberately is not the way to play it. So that alone was kind of silly. You knew, that puts you in a wrong frame of mind. It's like what I've said before. When you see a telephone number that says 555-1212 on the phone, which doesn't happen anymore, but in the old days it did, you knew for a fact that you've been wrenched out of any sort of reality, and now you've got to wade your way back in. Well, the whole air traffic control thing was totally terrible. The guy should have been fired and executed right then and there. He's a terrible ATC guy. He never would have gotten in to do the job. What they're trying to do is they're trying to say he has attention to detail. He sees things in a very precise way, but he emotionally is somewhat disjointed. I don't know if that really plays in something like that. I can see that if the guy is going completely nuts, I suppose, and has earned his reputation, earned his position, but then starts falling apart because of events. I don't see that here because the disconnect is that he would have been fired. Yes, he got whatever, removed from the job for a period of time, but he wouldn't have been able to go back. I don't know, it's just crazy. To me, it would have made more sense to allow the character to devolve in a more orderly way. I don't know how else to say that. He does, and I guess maybe that's what they were trying to do, but it didn't seem to fly very well. And that is that he's trying to make sense out of these events. And he keeps seeing the same things, although in different ways over and over again. It's the looping thing that was mentioned earlier about Star Trek, which is a common trope. Groundhog Day is the obvious example of that. But in Groundhog Day, the character continued to improve. That character becomes something better later on. And this movie, it was, he becomes a pilot. Great. Nobody cares. By the way, the uniform didn't fit. The collar needed to be about one and a half sizes, a little smaller to fit. So if you're going to do that, at least make him look like he's not working for a certain airline that I'm not allowed to say. One of the other things is the supernova 30 light years away. I don't know. Chaz has gone to bed. We should have asked him about that. What would a supernova look like 30 light years away? I would think that it would be very, very, very bright and seen during the day. I think they could have done something with that and made it a little more interesting. All they did was say, well, the 30-year timeout thing was important, which when everybody goes, huh? What's that got to do with the price of tea in China? Then we do a little dark shadows thing where we're taking and changing the positions of people. People who've died are now living again and reliving what's going on. Huh? That doesn't make any sense either. I like some of the things that they did visually, but that comes up on the next part, I guess. I don't know. In any case, I felt that I kept hoping the movie would get better. I kept hoping the plot would finish off better, but it really didn't. It kind of ended on a flat note, I guess. That's again always the thing, and I always come back to this probably ad nauseum, is that you can start with a really great idea or a thought of a great idea and pitch the story, but if you can't deliver in the final act, what's the point? This one was another one of those where it goes off the deep end and you cannot conclude in a satisfactory way. Even the ending with him going out in his pilot suit, and we don't know, is that his kid or not? Does it belong to Jonas? Does it matter? Do we care? And the answer is we don't. By the way, the shirt was too big. It really ended... Let me say this. You look at something like episodes of The Twilight Zone, 5 years of The Twilight Zone, and it had clunkers. But overall, the idea is to set up a story, and it can be mystical, it could be supernatural, it could be something crazy and not explained. But you have to have, at the end, some sort of resolution with the characters that A, you've invested your time with, that you care about, and B, they transform into something different, hopefully better. If it's worse, it's because they had their comeuppance in the Twilight Zone. We got none of that. The payoff wasn't there. There was no reason to care about either of the characters. Yeah, they were nice. You take your clothes off, they look fine. Well, Twilight Zone didn't do that, and they didn't need to. So, give me something more. Give me something. Tell me how these people are better. What lesson did they learn? What lessons do I learn from all of this? There were no touchstones in that way that really... A love story? Maybe. I don't understand the motivation, ultimately. So it could not deliver on any level that really mattered to me. Whether it was the juxtaposition, the craziness that went in, the storyline with the people and their attraction to each other, was it really there? The crazy thing with what did they find in the happenstance? That made no sense. The science sure as hell didn't make sense. The ATC people didn't make any sense. It was nuts. Okay, I'm done with that one. So, let me do this. I'm going to go ahead and go to the top. We can talk about characterization. I'm not sure what we're going to have at this point, but say as you will. Say what you think about characterization, and if that one's sort of a dud, then we'll go to the final round. So let's go to the top. Bill, are you still there? N5BB. You got anything to say? You can even make comments about what you've heard, and you can talk about characterization, whatever you'd like. We're going to make this one more open because I'm not sure we got enough material to really make that work. Go ahead, from KE5ICX.
Yes, this is N5BB. Well, characterization. So the protagonist, whatever his name was, I just did not understand him the way he was portrayed. I would have thought he would have checked himself into a mental hospital or done something, or shared with a close friend exactly what was going on, or tried to get more sleep or something. Instead, he just kept on going. I mean, he gets run over on the bicycle. In one weird scene, he nearly contemplates suicide. I just did not understand him going up to the edge of the building. It made no sense. It didn't fit in with anything else in the movie other than that one scene right there. Why did they do that? Why? Why did the character do that? the woman who's, whatever her name was, again, the names didn't stick with me because I wasn't invested in the characters. But she, the love interest, she seemed a little bit ditzy, and near the end, she was willing to go with that other guy who she was starting to suspect and go into the Grand Central Station where she would have been warned so many times, warning it's going to happen. What was such a big deal about them having the same birthday exactly 30 years previously? This is a combination of characterization and plot. Who cares? Why? No explanation. Why was the bad guy, whatever his name was, the guy that was the video artist, what was going on there? Near the end, when they showed there in his studio, by the way, the protagonist broke into it, broke that lock off with a fire extinguisher, which seemed way too easy to me. I don't think that would have happened. And why was it sealed up with a padlock? That seems a little weird. But when he went in there, it looked to me like some of the video, the images, the line images things, were of the girl, like he was infatuated with her and had all her photographs over there. What did that have to do with this 30-year cycle and the letters he found? I don't know. It just didn't make any sense to me. I didn't understand that character at all. To me, I don't want to mention, I think it's very bad to say this has anything to do with Groundhog Day. Groundhog Day was a very good movie. You were engrossed in it. It made sense within the movie, format. And Bill Murray did a fantastic job, and the other actors in there and actresses. This movie was no Groundhog Day. No Jack Kennedy, no Groundhog Day. Nothing like that. They didn't time loop. There was no time looping. He had these things that were something like a flashback, but he wasn't the same person as the other person 30 years ago. He didn't have the same name. He doesn't seem to be related to him. He didn't look like him. She didn't look like him. Happened to be 30 years later. Why 222? And why some weird times in the morning? I'm sorry. I'm fed up with it. It's like I say, they threw things at us, including characterization things. They threw things at us to see if anything would stick. Some of them momentarily made you kind of feel for the character, but it went away when something else totally unexplained happened. So that's the reason at the end of the movie, I didn't have any feeling for the characters. I really didn't. And anyway, and like you say, who would be an air traffic controller with that stupid attitude? That's just wrong. I don't know. N5BB.
Thank you, Bill. Dal, you've pretty much made my feelings known. So, for those who may be listening and can't sleep and are on the radio or listening on the radio, we're talking about the movie 222 from 2017, kind of a time looping story. Next up is James, KG5PMN. Your comments on characterization. Go ahead, from KE5ICX.
KG5PMN. Well, I guess first off, I had movies wrong. I was thinking about the Groundhog, and I guess it was Bill Murray, and they're the other one. I guess I had my movies wrong, but or my movie names wrong. But I was thinking about the one where he lived today, kept reliving the day over and over and over. But characters really didn't do too much for me. watching air disasters on the Smithsonian Channel. That kind of blew the control tower kind of blew it for me there with him appearing to give instructions to the aircraft over the telephone was what I got out of it. Instead of sitting there at a desk with a headset watching a radar and actually shuffling the planes around on those card systems. Didn't really, just saw him standing up. Looked like he was just talking on the telephone all the time. As far as characters go, well, there's nothing exciting in them. I mean, very little action in it. You see him walking around through the daytime a lot. He was standing up there on the rooftop. If I remember correctly, counting a time the plane actually flew over every day and looking out at that car wreck, different car wrecks, and at the same time of day. I mean, there was just nothing exciting in the characters. It showed him riding a train quite a bit, and just didn't get much out of it. Back to the next AG5 PM in.
Yeah, I don't agree, James. I'll hold it until the end. WB50ZL, Brenda. Make sense of the characterizations. I know you're a Hallmark Channel kind of gal. Tell us from KE5ICX.
WB50ZL, what's a Hallmark Channel? I really do know. Context here. The reason why Tom disses Spirit so much is because my son used to work for them for 3 years, and he just thought it was hilarious to try and get a rise out of me, which works. Just yanking my chain is so much fun. And now that my son works for Southwest, he does the same thing towards Southwest. Which is a stellar airline. And no, my son was not the guy doing the potty mouth over the intercom the other day. Thank goodness. Whoever that poor guy is, I think he's going to be sweeping floors now. I don't know. Sometimes they don't. Sometimes they don't lose their job. They're like re-educated and sent to Fargo or something. Characters. Well, the main characters were cute, like I said earlier. They were watchable. The dialogue wasn't unfortunate. It wasn't too bad. It's just, you kept trying to make some sense out of everything and going, okay, are they going to get to a point? Is something going to happen? Are they going to explain it? No, they never did. So, you just wonder how the characters saw this film. And given that it was, these things are always shot out of sequence, it must have been like, a bad trip for these people to come in and say these lines, and it just doesn't make any sense at all. But I guess you go home with your check and everything's good. Yeah, I am. It was pretty dismal. The whole thing was, and the characters, they're, they were kind of cardboard stereotypes. There wasn't anything different or unusual or interesting about them. They're just mannequins. All right, back to net. WB50ZL.
Okay, you're very sensitive to the airline industry and what it all means, but that's okay. I fully understand. Scared of airplanes. The W5EBB, David, your comments on characterization. You can zing them all you want, my friend, for the movie 222, and not the room part. Go ahead, from KE5I6.
Well, first, I agree with Jay how hard it was to stay focused watching this movie. I kept waiting for significant plot reveals while I was otherwise absorbed with finding how many faces and forms I could discern from my complex patterned living room carpet. Now, the thing about this is it wasn't exactly time travel, but I think it was the same souls perpetuated from past to present in different bodies. So it was not time travel, but effectively a loop with the same people who are repeating an almost identical narrative. But maybe this iteration they'll change just enough to get it right, which was the case, I think, in the end for the protagonist. But that's my interpolated interpretation of the story. It wasn't explicitly, indicated in the movie, but maybe it should have been. And the major characters aren't too memorable when you're at the end of the movie and you don't even know the name of the main character. It's Dylan. And there are lots of incidental characters to complete the pattern. The pregnant woman, the row of school children, the businessman. Really too many. We get it. Same people, same events, same time. The only thing missing was a row of nuns, a pair of nuns, or a single nun. Have you ever seen a nun in public, say at Walmart? I don't think I ever have. Helen Reddy is the only nun I've ever known. Now back to Dylan. He needs to stop drinking that 8 o'clock in the morning coffee laced with ground ayahuasca. It's no wonder that he keeps seeing patterns, geometries, connections, and has all these repeating Bill Murray Groundhog Day experiences. He just might soon start seeing the fascinators behind it all who are masquerading as people. But, that's another sci-fi story. And it's a good one. It's called 8 o'clock in the morning. Now, Star Trek The Next Generation, it's covered this. Season 5, Episode 18, Cause and Effect. I would put it in my top 10 Next Generation episodes where the 3s trump the 2s. W5EBB.
Oh, thank you, David. I'm so glad you checked in tonight. You're in rare form, and you're right about all of it. And you do bring up the point that, the soul iteration thing, which was the Dark Shadows thing, which I mentioned in a very crude fashion earlier, but you're right. Okay, let's see. Next up, John. Hopefully he's still there. Hopefully improved power. K5GBT. John, if you're out there, go ahead and let us know you're still out there. Hopefully your signal is a little better. We'll listen carefully. Go ahead. He had problems with his signal, so he probably just gave up and called it a night. But hopefully he'll come back next week. KV9SOK, Sean, go ahead. Tell us about characterization for 222 from KE5I6.
Yeah, I wish there was something to say about the characterizations. Unfortunately, there isn't. Yeah, the protagonist was very one-dimensional. And it was very weird how they wrote him. And the fact that, they kind of insinuate at the beginning he's supposed to be some kind of genius that can, see all these shapes and patterns and instantaneously do these calculations in his head. And, and then they just kind of turn him into an idiot, which makes not a lot of sense. And then towards the end there, him trying to kill himself. And it just, for somebody that appeared in the beginning to have his life together and be, so repetitious and just, they, like I said, they kind of made you think this guy was supposed to be super smart, but, he loses it so easy later. It just made no sense. And then, unfortunately, his love interest wasn't very interesting either. The whole thing was about wanting to be a dancer, and in the end, she didn't become a dancer. He got his dream, but she didn't get hers. It just didn't make, the characters just, they're like it's already been said, there was no evolution at all. They were just very flat, very boring. Not a whole lot happened there. And even at the, they sort of kind of at the beginning insinuated that he had all these close friends, but yet, at this time of need, he never bothered to reach out to them, or they didn't try to help him, knowing that he was losing it. It's just weird. And the other weird thing about the whole plot point, was there, when the police were chasing him, and there apparently wasn't any repercussions for his actions there, because obviously the end showed that, he got to become a pilot and got married and had a kid, and, went on. So, there's just so many things that didn't make sense here. And really, other than, and then, of course, the psycho boyfriend or ex-boyfriend was very predictable from the beginning. You knew that that was going to happen, and there was no surprises there with him either. So, there really was no real interesting characters in this movie. I'll just send it back to Nat. This is KB9SOK.
Thank you, Sean. And I think we're reaching a consensus when it comes to the lack of characterization. Oh, well. All right, J, KG5BZWJ, characterization. You've got something to say. Make sense of these people. We need sensical characters. Please go ahead from KE5ICX.
This is a KG5BZW. I hadn't really put two and two together here, but they really tried to, that the movie A Viewful Mind about John Nash, and, the guy behind the Nash equilibrium and stuff like that, and all his troubles. They kind of wanted to, I feel like they wanted to do that with this main character. You just see these patterns everywhere. Except for, let's go back to John Nash here. That guy was legitimately smart. Yes, he also had schizophrenic issues where he was seeing patterns where none were necessarily there. But, that guy was legitimately someone that, it's hard to say. It's like I've studied a few mathematicians where they just kind of went a little bit crazy. Think of, I can never pronounce his name, Goodell, and, oh man, I got coughing right now. One sec. Okay, but that's what they tried to do. They didn't do it really good, because obviously for all of that to make to this accurately show the character's condition, you'd have to have a world that actually made sense to that condition, not necessarily made sense in real time, because a schizophrenic world would be a little bit, it's going to be off. But when you get the context of the person that's, viewing it, it's got to be, to make sense at least to that. I also wanted to say, I didn't find the character as nearly as, I won't say unrelatable, because this is not really something I completely relate to or anything, but I can understand the idea that the main character kind of felt harassed by the universe and, kind of wanted to just get away, but the only way to get away from a universe harassing yourself is, so that part didn't actually, it wasn't completely senseless. And then, of course, they had the airplane going above right when he decided not to take his life because of, whatever. They injected that little story about his father. I had the feeling they were going to use it, that story somewhere, and that's where they used it. Okay, fine. I see the pattern behind the writing here. But I don't know. It is a little bit interesting talking about the main character, but in those aspects, but that's the only thing I can really think of. We're really talking about, because everybody else, you get the previous lives. Those, I guess, those characters are kind of interesting, but they're still, you just don't really get that much into why those previous characters, those, I'm calling them previous characters, those prior life characters, whatever, did what they did. They just barely might brush the surface instead of really got into that. And you know, otherwise, you know, it's for the characters to make sense, the movie has to make sense, so you can't really get that much into detail about characters otherwise. So that's my 2 cents. KG5 BCW. Back to net.
All right, thank you, Jay. I think I'm probably going to have the same problem trying to really express my feelings about the characterization, such as it is. So, I get it. Michael, you got to sit out 2 rounds. Well, 1 round. Now the second round. Now it's time to pay the piper. Pickled pepper. WT9V. Michael, you're on, I don't know, characterization, plot, story, I don't know, word usage, whatever you want. Go ahead.
Oh, fine. I mean, you know, if you're going to force me to jump in after 1 round, when you said I got to sit out 2, fine. I will start by saying, speaking of nuns, there was Whoopi Goldberg. But yeah, I mean, as far as quote characterization unquote, although technically, even though she said this during the characterization part, this was plot, that there wasn't any point to the movie other than a way to show off the neat-looking special effects whenever they, you know, did all the things melding together, mainly toward the end, and then the visualization of Grand Central, and where did all that come from? But once again, that's plot. But then I didn't get to do plot, so I'm with David. Although I wasn't looking for faces in my carpet, cracked me up, by the way, sir. I did keep waiting for something to make sense, and something to be like, why am I watching this movie? I mean, it's kind of interesting-ish, but I think it was mainly interesting in waiting for something to happen and being ultimately disappointed in that. And that's pretty much, the main character, as was mentioned, he would have been fired so fast after that stunt at the beginning, no matter how good he was. But the most amusing part of the entire movie was watching, quote, watch party, unquote, with Tom, where he was just rattling off all of the different airplane types as he saw them on screen. But after the airplanes went away, it was pretty much a bust. WTIV.
All right, thanks you, Michael. And I don't disagree. You know, you got a little bit of more than a passing interest in aviation, except I don't want to actually fly on any airplanes because, well, They are what they are. And knowing some of the stories going in the background, maybe our character being nuts and doing all the things that he says, maybe that was true. I don't know. I have to tell you, and ham radio operators have this intersection as well. They get to meet people in law enforcement. They get to meet people in aviation, military. Geez, what else? So many different areas. And when you're growing up, I mean, as a kid, you think everybody's perfect, right? And what you find out is everybody's just human. And sometimes under pressure, they're a little wacko because they're in what is traditionally considered like a pilot. You know, you put in this incredible high pedestal or doctor, high pedestal, and you're expecting everything to be perfect because these people are well trained, sometimes well paid, depending on the profession, sometimes not. But in any case, you expect the highest performing individuals and everything that's going on. And then you find out through backdoors and stories like I knew a couple of OR nurses, ER and OR nurses through the years, and you know, doctors who went in and went in and operated on the wrong knee, things like that. Or, you know, in law enforcement, you let the wrong guy go because the name is spelled slightly different. We're all human and things happen. And so those stories come out, and sometimes crazy stuff comes out. But when you see something like this, and you see it so absolutely just nuts, you know, is that even close? No. It's a 555-1212 moment. So I don't know. I wanted very badly for this movie to be better than it was, but from the very beginning, even though, and we can bring this in, I'll segue into any final comments having to do with the visuals and all of that, so I'll just start with this and say, I thought the movie visually was very good. I enjoyed it. I thought that all the scenes were set up nicely. I'm sure most of them were digital because it was a made-for-TV movie and it looked bigger than what it was. So the digital effects were well done. The overall look and feel of the movie was right, but the story was wrong. The characterization was poor. The development was non-existent. And when you have those things in play, it doesn't matter how great the film looks, it's not going to carry it to the end. And while I don't think technically this maybe is a science fiction film, from the simple fact that things weren't exploding all over the place like they are in most films, this one just didn't quite, they didn't know what to do or how to do it. They needed a good writer. Find somebody out there. Find a Richard Matheson or somebody like that. Fix the story. I think that the structure was kind of there, but it was aimless. Nobody knew what to do or how to do it. And if you have that or don't have that, what are the actors going to use? What are they going to do for characterization? If they don't know what the motivations are because the motivations don't exist, what do you do? Now, we've seen movies in the past, too, where you hire, and this is very common, you hire your character actors, you hire your A-list actors, and even B-list actors, if they're good, that are recognizable, to play the character that they know well, them, whatever they've made happen through the years. You know, everybody looks at somebody like John Wayne, and what has John Wayne has always played in all of his characterizations? John Wayne, you know. Gregory Peck, another one. You know, you play Gregory Peck. So this movie was devoid of any signature actors that I could see. So you didn't hit that. The character, the actors had no motivation, so that didn't work, and there was no character development or any place to go from A to Z. And at the end, you're left with a flat moment. What do? Well, the big mystery, is that her kid, his kid? I don't know. Quite frankly, I didn't care. By the way, the shirt was too big. So there you have it. All right, I'm going to open it up. We're getting towards the end here. Anybody has any comments? You can talk about special effects, something we've already discussed, music, the color purple. I don't care what it is, something that isn't even related to the film. It doesn't matter. It's opened up. Just come with your call sign. We'll go down the list if there is one. Tell us what you think, and then after that, I'll tell you what the movie is. So please go ahead. Come with your call.
November 5. Bravo, bravo.
Well, I guess the movie wore everybody out. Bill, you get the last comment. Go ahead.
Yes, surprisingly, I'm still in here, Tom. It's nearly the bewitching hour, Inside BB. Did you notice that right at the end, just right at the end, at the end of the final Grand Central Station scene, there was this thing they threw in from nowhere about the original guy was framed because of some bad policeman trying to cover up something. Where did that come from? It was just like thrown in there as some explanation for why his character, the protagonist's character, 30 years previously, even though he tried to shoot somebody or something, was not a bad person because he was framed. What? No explanation, no backstory, no anything else. Just thrown in. A few minutes before that, you saw the policeman acting incredibly adept outside. What does he do? He steals the policeman's gun, and remember, number one, if he had been a person of color, the policeman probably would have just shot him. Instead, they were at a hold-off. He throws the gun down, and then he kicks it away, and they stupidly look over at the gun and let him run the other way. Oh, come on. I'm sorry. Oh, my golly. I just do not believe that at all. So they were playing the policeman for fools at that point, and then at the end they were playing him for the bad guys that set up the character 30 years previously. What I really think is there was no real screenplay. I think what they did is set up some scenes and some little plot line pieces. But I think the director started shooting this thing before they had an integrated story that made any sense, okay? And I think they just shot different pieces of this, and my guess is they may have had more than one possible major plot line. And at the end, they just chose whichever ones of the things they had filmed looked good, or maybe the ones that the actors didn't bumble their lines on, or the lighting or the audio was good, or the characters looked charismatic, and they just stuck them together to fill the time up. That's what it looked like to me, because I just don't see a regular screen plot with a theme and a reason for things and any kind of redeeming qualities in it. I just don't see a screenplay at all. So it's possible that maybe they didn't know what they were. I don't know if they didn't know what they were doing, or they ran out of time or money, or they just decided to dump it all together and see if somebody would buy it. End of comment. Infab BB clear. Good night.
Very good. Thank you, Bill. I will tell you this. There's one thing I can mention, and this is kind of interesting in a way, sidelight, is that, you know, in my job, one of the zillion things that I do, I wish I got paid to do the zillion things, but we do the video stuff for my company. And one thing that I learned is that as you develop script and you end up doing production, you're up against a time constraint, which simply is you got to get something out in some period of time. And I can guarantee you that you don't have enough time to do whatever it is straightforward, has a beginning, middle, and end. In the process of doing your stuff, you also have to take and film things. You've got to make sure everything is there. You've got to do what are called pickups. You make establishing scenes. All this stuff has to happen. And then suddenly, when you put it together, you watch what is a work print, and you look at that print and you say, uh-oh, something's missing. Do we have time to fix it? And usually the answer is, no, you don't. So what do? Do you take out a scene that doesn't quite fit exactly, or do you leave it in because it fits the time frame or has some other element in it that is more important, and you hope that the audience doesn't notice this weird incongruity, which is like your bad cop thing. There was probably some subtext to it with lines that were lost later on or earlier on. They were cut out, but in this case you couldn't excise that little piece because it was part of the total scene. So you just leave it, and you hope that people don't notice it or they don't care. And that's probably what happened. Got to remember we're off the timer now, or on the timer, as I should say. So these things happen. In fact, I just had one, and I looked at it and went, oh, we'll get back to that later, was in the script, and it's still there. It's already posted. We do intuitively, it's covered, but it's not overtly covered later on. We don't mention it. And so it's in the script, it's in the final, it's done, and that's just the way it is. So that sometimes happens, and movies are like that. It drives you crazy, but it happens. All right, well, we're going to close it down. It's 12:03. Next week's movie. Is everybody ready? You're going to like this one. Philip K. Dick. He's back. This time, Minority Report with Tom Cruise. Yes, actually, that was a pretty good film, mostly, although it has its problems. Next week will be Minority Report from 2002. If you want additional information, let me reset. Most of you already know you can go to Afterglow Movie on the Facebook page, Afterglow Movie, 2 words. Look it up. You'll find under Files all the movies, and then I try and update them on Sunday morning. I'll do that tomorrow with the links to next week's movie. Let's see, what else? Oh, if you don't like that sort of thing, send an email to me at my call sign, Kilo Echo 5 India Charlie X-Ray, KE5ICX at yahoo.com, and I'll put you on the list, and I'll send you all the link information and all that. Movies are almost always free. They either have ads or they're special. If you have subscription services, we'll put them in there as well. But 9 times out of 10, 99 out of 100 times, you'll find it, and it will have the link that it doesn't cost you a thing to see. That's it for me. 7-3. Catch you next time. Stay dry. I think it's going to rain tomorrow. Good discussion this evening for a bad movie, which is usually true. This is KE5ICX, clear, and good night. See you next week.
The time is 12:00.
I have to say, Tom, I went back and looked, and I don't think that the guy's shirt was the wrong size, but I'm open to debate. W29V.
Look again. Come on.
worried if his collar was much smaller, it would have strangled him, and that would have been a bad thing up in the air. Maybe.
Tom, are you trying to say he's not a stuffed shirt?
Exactly. It wasn't a stuffed shirt. The collar was too wide.
I had to throw that in there. Oh my, you know something is really wrong with the movie if the complaint is the shirt size was incorrect. Was this really a movie of the week or something, or made for TV movie?
Well, from what I read, it was a direct-to-video. So, yeah, it was not the best film in the universe, although I thought the production value was pretty good. It was just everything else was sweet.
Yeah. I don't know. I think about this, and I think, not that those are the best actors in the world, but with those actors and the director they had and the locations they had, which were fine, and with the extras and the other people they had and the equipment they had to film this, if they just had some better content, you know, it could have been a good movie. I don't know. Maybe they were starting to make something that was a little bit more like Groundhog Day, and they decided either they could get sued or people would realize it was a copy, and so they tried just 12 different ways of making it. None of them worked. So like I say, what I think is they mushed them all together. They just threw everything together and filled up the time with whatever scenes they had. You know, they could keep the way they were doing it, they could keep filming times over and over again for him going to work and his bicycle and, you know, crashing in the cab and doing all those other kind of things. They could do that forever, or him going over and to the museum places. They could just keep on doing it over and over and over again, and it'd be a little bit different. I don't know. I'm tired. Good night. Inside BB clear.
W5FC.
I'm going over and I'm watching Dr. Smith and the Robot because they are on MeTV right now, and they're much more engaging. Inside BB clear.
Hey, Bill. Yeah, I'm watching the same thing. By the way, they finished off the last episode from the third season 2 weeks ago, and then they jumped into the second season again. I understand, and I don't know where they're at with it, but they're supposed to be colorizing the first season, which I think is a bad idea. But it was one of the last things Kevin Burns did before he passed away last year, and that was the plan. So that may be why it is where it is overall, which is their maybe upgrading it one more time. They've done that a few times. Well, go watch it. I forget this episode. They had two of these long ship things they did. I don't remember this one, the second season. I digress. See you later. See you next week. This is KE5ICX. I'm clear.
One thing I'll say, Tom, is that I'm looking at the images right now. Considering when it was, you know, originally came out on TV, the poor quality of the TVs there, then the quality of what we're looking at now is far superior than if we were watching it in, you know, what year did this come out? 1967 or something? I can't remember.
Well, yeah, this is 66, 67, so yeah.
I mean, the quality I mean, I'm sure they've probably gone back and, readjusted the color and everything. But the quality is really pretty good, for such an old thing. Do you know if they have all the tapes? Wait a minute. Is this a Desilu production?
No, this is 20th Century Fox. They did it on the 20th Century backlot. And from what I understand, and I don't know, I lost some of the continuity here, they were able to strike HD copies from some higher resolution tape, believe it or not. I thought that they had access to 35 millimeter. They had some, and they were experimenting with it to try and get past the spoke holes to give it some additional definition, but in the process of that, you got microphones in pictures and sides of set frames and stuff like that. It was a whole fascinating thing they were talking about 4 or 5 years ago. So I'm not exactly sure what these are, but they are better. And of course, I have the Blu-ray, so I go nuts over those. The quality is superior, but I don't know if they were struck from the original 35s. My guess is maybe not. But the other part is, and what's really nice about this is that this is in the first years of color, so they brilliantly lit the sets. So you had depth of field. You could, stop these things down, and everything was in focus. So that helps with the picture. They also worked on Star Trek as well. The first years of color, they just totally bathed the sets in tons and tons of light, which meant there was nothing in shadow and very, very sharp quality. So if you had a good source and you restruck them, however you did it, they look good. And Lost in Space is one of those that looks good, even though this is an embarrassing special effect I'm looking at right now.
This is in 5BB. Well, I tell you, they really like orange in this, don't they? You notice how vibrant that reddish orange is? Wow. A lot of the reason was, color TV was new, and so they were, the moment they could get some color things on TV, they were all excited about it. The studio people, I mean, the TV channel executives were, and the local stations were too. Wow, look at all this vibrant color. So even if they had a poor quality color TV, it still was bright and colorful, even if that orange may have had some purple and green in it. You probably remember the old TVs with some of the old shadow mask, and they'd get magnetized, and one edge of the screen would have a green tint, and the other one would be kind of purple and everything. Oh man. I'm just kind of amazed they still have, a lot of stuff was lost, but I'm really glad that they have some high quality, copies of some of these early things, and some of the stuff from the 50s. I was just hearing about, on an NPR program today. This is the second time I've heard this. They were talking about Desilu Productions and Ricky and Lucy, and the fact that they were having a hard time getting the studio to film it in 35 millimeter. They want to do the thing where they converted the TV thing. They photographed the TV, the kinescope thing, which is really poor quality. And so instead, Ricky said he would pay for the film, and then when he got it, he said, "Oh, well, maybe I better do something with it." It was just an amazing decision. I gotta go. In 5BB clear.
Solid Field, W5EBB. Don't go yet, Bill. I have something for you.
Oh, no! Hello, David.
Okay, I'm looking at the March 1958 issue of Radio and TV News. Okay, I'm opening up to the letters to the editors. To the editors, your magazine is one of the best that we receive. This is especially true because of your information on color TV. This material is very welcome to us since we are now leading the area in sales of color TV receivers, having sold about 55 sets since we started to handle them about 14 months ago. Thanks for your fine help in this matter. Chester M. Benson, Richmond's Television Center, Richmond, Indiana. The editor responds, thanks for the compliments. To some, color TV is still a big question mark, but others are going full steam ahead with it. Editor, W5EBB.
Oh, yeah. I mean, I was watching TV, and